Hey everybody, are you ready for your next networking event? All right, let's get to it. There's 3 critical mistakes you want to avoid making before you head into your next networking event. Let's talk about them today. Number one is simply not being prepared. And I mean in all aspects of that. When there's times where I've headed to networking events, not really even knowing who's going to be there, not knowing where I'm even supposed to park, not even really knowing how I'm supposed to dress, and just showing up and gracing everybody with my appearance. I can tell you that this is the absolute wrong way to go about it, especially when you're not really knowing what to say. I don't know if any of you struggle with this, but I definitely do. And I definitely struggle with this even creating videos, is that I start talking and I start heading down various different rabbit holes, and I'm even wondering inside my own head, where am I going with this conversation, right? Anybody ever had that issue? That's part of being prepared. Part of it is being prepared is knowing what it is that you do, knowing what it is that you're going to convey to people, and not necessarily even around your business, but can you convey this in a very compelling way to your avatar? Who is it that you're actually looking for? Specifically, what emotional state do you take your ideal avatar out of and move them to? For example, back in my property management days when I was networking, I would say, I take the frustration out of managing rental properties. And they would say, oh, how do you do that? Oh, well, I'm actually a property manager. I do this, that, and the other thing, right? So for you, what is the emotional state that you address for your avatar? That's a really good way to be prepared. It's a really good conversation starter. The other thing is learn to ask really good questions. And that's also part of preparation. And what do I mean? This goes back to the Dale Carnegie book of, influencing people and getting people to like you, is that if you want to be interesting to people, you have to be interested. Learn to ask good questions. Learn to ask them about what they are doing and what really frustrates them in their industry. How do they get into their industry? Or maybe what's new, anything coming down the pipeline, or any concerns in your industry. Ask them really good questions, and maybe have a list of little questions that maybe you could have on your phone, or maybe even on a little cheat sheet or something, so it doesn't look like you're being rude. You can maybe check something really fast. And really what you're doing is you're priming yourself for other questions that maybe you have forgotten. That's a great way to be prepared. And it's a great way to really connect with people because they love talking about themselves. Now, you might not get people, you might find a person who may not be liking to talk about themselves very much, but when you're starting to ask good questions, they're going to really want to engage with you, and they're going to really appreciate that. So especially if you don't like talking about yourself, that's going to be true. Now, this is also going to be true if you do like talking about yourself. I know for some of us who are attention deficit prone, we tend to monopolize conversations, and we even know that we're doing it and we cannot stop. And that leads me to the second thing not to do, okay? The absolute mistake to avoid. And that is monopolizing conversations. One of the things I've actually learned to do is something called the 2-breath rule. And I enlist this 2-breath rule, especially in events where if I'm just learning maybe if I'm a new person in this particular setting, right? If I'm just learning the ropes in terms of how this group networks, or if it's a new person I'm in front of, or if I'm just new to the room, I use a 2-breath rule. What do I mean? Someone will say, hi, what's your name, right? And I'll say, oh, my name is Mark Dolfini, right? That's 1 breath. I'm saying it in 1 breath. If something comes back to me and they're saying, hey, what do you think about this opinion? Or, hey, I hear you're a strategist. What do you think about X, Y, and Z? I'm going to give them an answer, and I'm going to measure that in 2 breaths. So I will have to make sure that my answer is concise enough, and also that I've thought about really what I want to say so I can get to the point much faster. If I know I've only got 20 to 25 seconds to answer a question, I'm going to make sure that I get to the point pretty quickly. I actually learned this from being on a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different radio shows, where I will ask them in advance, hey, how much time do we have for this entire interview? And they might say, well, we've got 6 minutes. So I will actually go in with a timer because I know I tend to run long with my conversations, and I will want to make sure that I'm not running too long on a question. So this goes back to this networking situation where someone will ask me, and I will try to pay attention to the 2-breath rule. I will answer it in 1 breath, And then I say the next thing, and by the end of that second breath, I better have made my point, and then I'm ready for the natural pause, and then maybe I might finish that up with, oh, why do you ask? Something along those lines, or what do you experience? And that way I'm finished with what it is that I'm saying at the end of the second breath, and I'm not monopolizing the conversation. And the third, absolute, probably the most egregious thing that you can do, if you've done the first two well, the third one is even more egregious because it's not following up. It's not following up and not following through. If you're going to an actual networking event to network and to either build your business or for whatever reason you're going in networking, right? Some people just go to network because they really just want to be around people. That's fine, okay? But don't complain if you're not getting business from networking. If your purpose for networking is actually getting business, then you've got to be more intentional, more purposeful about that. This is interesting because I cannot tell you how many people reach out to me on social media platforms, and on some platforms I don't mind because they are business pages. That's fine. But if they're reaching out to me on my personal pages and they, in the name of networking, and they never engage with me, and I just mean normal conversation. I'm not saying, hey, buy my stuff. I'm saying, hey, how are you today? Do we know each other? And they never ever reply. I'm sorry. That's a one-way ticket to off my list. And I know that sounds kind of harsh and maybe sounds like a little bit of a jerk, but I'm sorry, like you're reaching out to me on my personal platform and you're saying it in the name of networking and you never engage. Dude, that doesn't work for me. The same thing goes in the networking, the real networking realm, when you're actually out meeting people face to face, and now you're actually talking to people and saying, hey, I'd like to meet with you. Here's my card. You exchange cards, and then you promptly wind up with a stack of business cards on your desk with a rubber band around them that you never do anything with. Okay. My suggestion: take a magic marker. I usually have a magic marker with me or a Sharpie in my vest pocket. And or my vest pocket, in my jacket pocket, I'll usually have a blue Sharpie in there, and I'll write on the back of the card the context in terms of where I met that person, generally the month and the year, and then the context, maybe just a note or two about something that is maybe noteworthy, something about a conversation that we had. So those are the tips that I have. Is obviously, number one, you have to be prepared. Number two, do not monopolize the conversation. And number three, make sure you actually follow up. And that might be a simple email, might be a simple text message, whatever it is, but just make sure that you're staying engaged with them, because it is not their job to remember you. Okay? I hope you found these networking tips helpful. I'm working on a download. If you'd like more free networking tips, it's actually a networking checklist to make sure that you don't miss the most important things. If you'd like that, the link will be in the description below, and I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day. See you.